Amra, is this your first time with Wild Digital or Boom Conference?
No, well, first time with Boom, but not the first time with Wild Digital.
How's the experience has been for you?
I love coming to these conferences because it's always so well organized. Oh my goodness, everything is so well prepped. Last time I was a moderator, this time a speaker, but I love every aspect of the coordination, especially with virtual conferences. I think they can often be very chaotic with links flying around everywhere, speaker briefings all over the place. But yeah, love that it's so organized all the time.
Like, is there any areas that you think we can improve or add on for better experience?
I wonder, so, I mean, I love that the panels are super short, but I also wonder if you can really get into the meat of a conversation in less than 25 minutes. So I think what would be really interesting is to maybe make the panels very specific, like in terms of what specifically do you want us to talk about in 25 minutes? Because then I think the audience might get some really interesting insights as opposed to it being very top level.
How do you find the scene of startup in Asia, especially in Singapore in particular?
I mean, the scene is booming. It's always booming. Singapore, obviously a hub for the region, so lots of things are happening here. But I think it's really exciting for other emerging markets around the region because I've seen a lot of them essentially taking best practices from a lot of the, older, I guess, startup markets and applying them to their local context, which means they're essentially leapfrogging a lot of the pain that many of these markets had to go through in order to develop what they did. So I think it's a super exciting time for this region and the startup ecosystem.
How do you see your organization play a big role to boost that market?
Yeah, so essentially at the moment, Accelerating Asia sits in a very niche gap in the ecosystem where there's a ton of early stage ecosystem support, incubators, venture builders, and many of the markets around the region, their accelerator programs are still very, very early stage. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have a lot of the big VCs you've probably seen in the news, $100 million, $200 million, like millions and millions of dollars being raised for Series A investments. But the reality is that there aren't enough startups that are ready to receive this funding. So even though they're graduating from these programs and these programs are really great for their ecosystems, they're not getting the companies to a stage where they're ready to accept that amount of money. And so that's essentially what we do. We don't have a set curriculum. We don't go over, the basics of startups with these companies. They come to us, they already have a little bit of traction, they've got a full team, and we are what we would consider a traditional accelerator in that we accelerate over a 3-month period. What are the things that we can do in order to get them to the point where they're ready for institutional funding?
Okay, because you have been working a lot with startups, right? Probably what are the common challenges that they go through?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think with the stage that we're specifically focusing on, usually the founders have hustled their way to a certain point. They have initial product market fit and some traction as well. And they probably used it and exhausted their own network in order to get to where they are. So what we focus on is how can we turn them into a real machine, at acquiring new customers, at keeping them in the funnel. How can they, manage a team properly? So it's really about putting together, they've kind of like put together the outside, maybe the basic skeleton. Ours is about really filling in that skeleton and kind of giving them the best that they need to be in order to get where they need to go. Most common across every stage, I think, is co-founder issues. So I think that is the biggest point of failure for any startup is, I think you can overcome all of the other challenges that you have, like no product market fit, all those other kind of issues. If you have a good leadership team, you can figure it out. Yeah.